Alright, so we are continuing from the discussion on theoretical perspectives. So again, to summarize a little bit, theories are lenses, perspectives, ways that we can analyze problems, situations, people, organizations, societies, etc. There are theories developed in all fields, all sciences, from sociology, psychology, physics, the humanities, history, philosophy. So this is something common to every field, and theories drive every single field. So it's important to have a good understanding of what theories are. So I talked about conflict theory last time. So again, conflict theory is a lens or a perspective, a way that we can analyze a situation. I know this looks like blinders, but you know, when we're looking through our own eyes, our own lenses, then we're kind of mostly seeing things from our opinion, our history, our experiences. Theories are a combination of a bunch of data, information, experiences, observations. Anyway, conflict theory, again, sociologists are looking at mostly about, conflict theory is mostly about power, who has the power, why, can that be changed, is it, would it be a good idea to have that change, etc. Your text talks a little bit about looking at conflicts, and that's kind of what conflict theory is, but really it's more about power and control situations. And then your authors talk about one of the other major sociological theories, the structural functionalist perspective, also called functionalist or functionalism. Some people call it structural functional. Looking at the words structural, structure, so things like employment places are places of employment that have a structure, and functional, so function, looking at how things work or don't work together, how they function or are dysfunctional in relationship to each other. So structural functionalism looks at how things work. One analogy to think about or try to get a sense of what the functional perspective or theory is that we have organs in our body, and if one of those organs stops working properly, then it affects other organs or other systems, other structures in our body. And so so functional theory looks at how things affect other things, how one organ affects another organ, how one position in the hierarchy of a college, for example, affects other positions or other levels in the hierarchy. So structural functionalism, looking at how structures, systems interact, interplay, work, or are dysfunctional in relationship to each other. Families, you can use functional perspective with families, as well as larger organizations, businesses, bureaucracies, and society. So we look, one good example for structural functionalism is analyzing a policy. So if a policy is going to be enacted either at your workplace, a policy about dress code, how is that going to affect, how is that going to work, what will be the pros and cons of that policy, and we look at it on a societal level as well. Dysfunction, function. And then the other major theoretical perspective in sociology is symbolic interaction, and it's also called symbolic interactionism. It's also called interactionism. All those mean the same thing. Looking at the word symbolic, symbol, symbols like language, written language, spoken language, designs on a t-shirt, that's a symbol. Those can be symbols, I mean. Brands, tattoos, those are all symbols, and we as meaning-making creatures assign meaning to those symbols, and we interact with each other based on the meanings that we give to those symbols. Symbolic interactionism is one of my favorite, quote-unquote, theories. What often happens is that people, once they've gotten a good understanding of the major theoretical perspectives, sometimes the minor ones, so as they proceed in their education, as they do their own research, they utilize these theories, they get a better handle on, you know, how they help us understand, help them understand, help a researcher understand a particular research question, a situation, and then they start to get, you know, as they start to get a feel for a theory or theories, most people tend to gravitate towards one. And so some people may do their whole life's research or work utilizing one theoretical perspective, and then others say, well, you know, this one works great for this research problem, but I want to study this problem, and after looking at some of the other theories in my field or related fields, I think this theory will better help me address this research question. Theories drive the world, so it's really important for us to have a good sense of what they're about. Stock market, there are theories about economy, stock markets. I mean, there are theories that are all over the place, and people are utilizing them, and they affect each and every one of us. So it's to your advantage to understand them. And again, back to symbolic interactionism. So interactionism, that's called a micro-level theoretical perspective because it's basically used to analyze small, either one-to-one or individual or small group interactions. So people will study language, symbols, conversation, how people interact with each other, and then do an analysis of what they're saying. Linguists are typically using this kind of theory, but sociologists are not always linguists. You don't have to be a linguist to use symbolic interactionism, but it's one of my quote-unquote favorite theories. I have done some work, research, using this theoretical perspective, looking at how battered women, the kinds of words that they use in their language when they're talking about themselves and the person who abused them. So I find it really interesting and fascinating to use this theoretical perspective, but it's not the only one that I utilize. So symbolic interactionism, a micro-level perspective or theory that we use to better understand small interactions, one-to-one, few, groups interactions, as well as the meanings that people have about societal level messages, media, things like that. So symbolic interactionism is a micro-level perspective, and then conflict theory and structural functionalist or functionalist theory, those are macro. So generally those two theories are used to examine kind of bigger picture research questions. And then your authors talk about some of the other more quote-unquote minor perspectives. There are a lot of theories in sociology. Introductory textbooks typically only go over a few, but they're certainly utilized by a lot of people in sociology. But you know, there's only so many that you can discuss in one introductory textbook. So exchange theory is similar to symbolic interactionism, but a little bit different. Evolutionary theory, that's a pretty, I don't want to say popular, but it seems to be gaining popularity more and more. Has its critiques, of course, as all the theoretical perspectives do, but people seem to be utilizing in looking at this theory a bit more. One of the other ones that your authors talk about is feminist perspective. Feminist perspective or feminist theory is not, how bad men are. That's not what that theory or perspective is about. Feminist perspective typically, not only, but typically is utilized, and I utilize the feminist perspective in a lot of my research. But feminist perspective typically he looks at issues about sex, gender, and power. And sex and gender are not the same thing, by the way. Sex is about biology, female, male, genitalia. Gender is about norms, traits, behavior. It's a concept that we apply to femininity and masculinity and our expectations or norms about behavior. Anyway, so feminists typically look at the inequalities between women and men, why they're there, should quote unquote they be there, what can we do to change that, should we change it, things like that. So it's really about inequalities between the sexes and what we need to do about that, if anything. So feminist perspective is one of my favorites, quote unquote, that I tend to utilize a lot in analyzing data and research. So, so again, theories are just lenses or perspectives that we can use to understand a situation, an issue, a topic, a problem, and theories drive everything in our society. So it's really helpful to get a sense of it. And you'll practice utilizing theories a bit in this class. And just like any skill, practice makes better. Maybe not perfect, but better. So keep practicing, keep learning, and you'll start to get a handle on what theories are and why we care. Because I know a lot of students don't really care about theories, and I understand that. I didn't care about them either. But after more years of education, I got a better sense of why they're important. So hopefully you found this video a little bit helpful, and I look forward to your discussions and questions. Thank you for your time and attention.